guys, it is Aoife for Fred We Died Laughing, and I am here to do some of my favourite audiobooks that I listened to in 2019. So I don't have as many on this list as I've had in previous years. I think that's mostly because for some of this year I was listening a lot to podcasts as well, so I was kind of splitting my time between podcasts and audiobooks. So I think number one, I probably didn't read as much audiobooks as I've had in previous years, and number two, I think maybe I just didn't have as many like amazing audiobook experiences. I wanted to put ones that I just really enjoyed the audio experience in this list, and I think for some I guess I just didn't have as many really good ones, which is funny because in 2020 so far, the two audiobooks I've read I've both really enjoyed, and I know both of those will be going on my list for 2020. So yeah, it's funny how it kind of works that way. But I'll get straight on into it and tell you the audiobooks I listened to and the narrators. The first audiobook I listened to was Pride by Zoboi. This was narrated by Elizabeth Acevedo, who is also the author of The Poet X. So Elizabeth Acevedo is obviously a poet, so she's just a really good narrator. She does a lot of spoken word poetry, I believe, which was in The Poet X that she wrote. So when she was narrating this book, I think she just did a really good job. Pride is basically a modern day Pride and Prejudice retelling set in New York, and I just think Elizabeth Acevedo just did the kind of spunkiness of the characters. They were quite cool but calm and collected, and they had their own kind of issues in terms of breaking out from the family mold as well. And I just think Elizabeth Acevedo just did a really good job in getting the characters across really well, and then just getting their emotions and everything as well, because I feel like, yes, a narrator can just narrate the story, but I think it takes a really special one to really get the moods and the inflections and things like that of what the characters are saying and what they're feeling, and really get that across in tone of voice as well as the tone that's written in the book. The next one was Academy Street by Mary Costello. This is narrated by Melanie, McHugh. I listened to this during the Irish Readathon last year, and I did actually have this in physical format, and I only realised afterwards, but I'm really glad I listened to it on audiobook, because again, this is a story that is a very quiet story. You're just getting the story, like you're literally just being told the story of this one woman's life as she grew up in Ireland. She's quite a shy girl. She moves to America, and then she meets a man and ends up having a family, and she doesn't have a typically like happy life. Some bad things happen. She's kind of left to fend by herself, and you're just kind of really feeling for her. And I think because of the way the story is told, that we're just like following her along very slowly, these day-to-day kind of things, nothing extraordinary happens, but it's just a very ordinary story it's like a lovely story about an ordinary person. And I think Melanie McHugh just did a really good job at this. Obviously we are following an Irish person, so the narrator was Irish as well, and as a narrator I just think she did a really good job. Her voice was very soft and lovely, and I just think it suited the story very well. And again, this one was not very long. I think it was only maybe 5 or 6 hours, because the book is only maybe 150 to 200 pages, so it's a really nice kind of shorter audiobook that you can listen to, and I just really enjoyed it. The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzi is another one I listened to an audiobook this year, and this one was narrated by Tayari Jones, and I really enjoyed this one, and I just love this story. I just think the character Felicity herself she's just brilliant, and this one was just such a fun one. I can't really say too much about the audiobook in this one, except that it was just a really fun audiobook to listen to. Tayari Jones just did a really good job at getting the story across, as well as all of them really. And yeah, I just really thought it was a really good audiobook, and just had a lot of excitement. I'm pretty sure there was a couple of characters in here that had accents as well, and I think she did accents really well, from what I can remember. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I actually just don't have that much to say about some of these, except that I just really enjoyed them. The next one is Bright Rune by Vic James. This was narrated by Avita J. This one I really enjoyed, because I think the last two books in this trilogy, I listened both of them on audiobook. I'm not sure if the second one was also narrated by Avita J. I will have to check that. But the thing was, I was kind of afraid that going from reading the first book in physical format and then reading the second and the third in audiobook format, I was afraid that I might lose some of the story, or you know, I might not be connected with the story as I was when I read it physical format. But I found that in this one in particular, I was just so engaged with the story, and I feel like Avita J's narration just brought me in so much. And just, this is a book that has a lot of like high stake things happening in it. There's a lot of magic, there is a lot of death in these books, like the characters are not safe in these books, which is another reason why I love them. So it's a very high stakes, high action, really going against this like brutal government, really trying to throw down people, and free a lot of other people. This is about a type of world, it's a type of England where magic exists, and basically people who are born without any magic, who aren't, I think they call them mages maybe in this, and people who aren't born without magic are basically kind of almost like slaves, or have to do a particular like amount of years as a slave for the mages. So they're treated really bad. They're kind of like second class citizens. A lot of the country is run by people with magical powers. There's a lot of corruption, things like that. So it's a really, really interesting book. I always describe it as what it would be like if Voldemort had won. Really fun to read an audiobook, as I said. I just really enjoyed the fact that I was so engaged with the story and I didn't lose any of it. I just think the narrator did a really good job in terms of the high action points in it, and yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. And then the last book I listened to was just a real pleasure for me, and that was The Country Girls by Edna O'Brien, and it was also narrated by Edna O'Brien. And this one was so great because it was narrated by Edna O'Brien, and I don't know if anyone who has either read any of Edna O'Brien's work before, but she has or has listened to her in interviews or anything like that, but she has the most beautiful accent. I think she's from Clare, County Clare in Ireland, and I really like the Clare accent anyway, but she just has this lovely soft lilting Irish accent, and there's just such a softness in her voice, and the way she was able to bring her characters to life. And I feel like if an author is able to do the audiobook narration for their book, why shouldn't they do it? Because I feel like out of everyone, they know their characters the best. They know exactly how they will sound, what type of voice they should have, and I think she just did such a great job at bringing the girls to life, and I just enjoyed listening to it so much. I definitely think what I was listening to was an abridged version of The Country Girls. I do have it in physical format, so hopefully I will read that soon, maybe during the Irish Readathon. I will give it a reread, but I really enjoy The Country Girl story overall. I've listened to it on audiobook, and then I did also go and see the play, which was absolutely spectacular. But the fact that this was narrated by Edna O'Brien just made it all the more special for me. I think it's one of the reasons why I highly, highly enjoyed listening to this audiobook, because as I said, she is just a pure pleasure to listen to. There's just so much culture and education and knowledge and humour and a bit of fun in her voice as well. Like, she's able to, her characters are a bit of fun, and some of the things that she wrote about were so scandalous for the time, and I think she knows that as well. There are parts where she was definitely narrating it that, you know, that like years ago when she would have originally written this, she knew that she was going to be in trouble for writing it, and you could definitely kind of tell there was a little bit of cheekiness in her voice when she was narrating it. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend people check out The Country Girls, narrated by Edna O'Brien, because like, it's just a wonderful way to take in the story, even if it is an abridged version, just for the experience of it being narrated by Edna. I would definitely say to listen to it because it was brilliant. So those are the audiobooks I've really enjoyed listening to last year. If you guys have any audiobook suggestions for me, please leave them down below. I also should have said at the start of this video that I actually don't use Audible or anything or Scribd for my audiobooks. All my audiobooks that I listen to I get free from my library app, which is absolutely brilliant. So I love doing that. I never have to pay for my audiobooks. I'm just supporting my library, which is fantastic. So yeah, just leave me a comment down below if you've watched the video, if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys again next time.